Let me tell you something, the hardest moments of your life are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to shape you. It's in those nights when you're crying, when nobody's around, when you feel like the whole world has turned its back on you. That's when God whispers the loudest. See, we expect him to show up in the noise, in the crowd, in the success. But most of the time, he speaks in the silence. I know you've been through seasons where it felt like every door was closing, where the people you thought would always be there walked away, and where your prayers seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down. But let me tell you, just because you don't hear him doesn't mean he's not working. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean he's not moving. God does his best work behind the curtain, in the quiet and in the unseen. And you know what else? That pain you're carrying right now, the weight you feel in your chest, the questions you keep asking, why me? Why now? That pain is not wasted. It's not random. It's not punishment. That pain is the soil where your purpose will grow. Some of the strongest trees only survive because their roots had to fight through the hardest ground. That's you. God is using your struggle as the very thing that will anchor you when the blessings come. Sometimes God will pull you away from people. Sometimes he'll let folks walk out of your life. Sometimes he'll make sure you're left standing all by yourself. And you'll think, why am I so alone? But listen, your isolation is not rejection. It's preparation. He knows what he's about to put in your hands, and he doesn't want the wrong people touching it. He doesn't want everyone having access to what he's building in you. So if you're in a season of loneliness, don't curse it. Respect it, because it means God is protecting you while he's perfecting you. And let me remind you, God's timing is always perfect. Always. You may feel like he's late, like he's forgotten you, like your life is stuck. But trust me, when he shows up in ways that no man can explain. He will make a way out of no way. He will turn midnight into morning. He will take what the enemy meant for evil and flip it for your good. So don't quit in the dark. Don't give up just because you can't see the light right now. God is speaking. Maybe not in the way you expected, but he is. He's saying, hold on, I've got you, I've never left you. This storm won't last forever. The blessing is coming, the healing is coming, the breakthrough is coming. If you can just hold on a little longer, if you can just trust him through the tears, if you can just keep walking even when the road feels heavy, what he has for you on the other side of this pain will make every struggle worth it. Because in your most difficult times, God will not only speak to you, he will carry you. You know, one of the hardest things we ever go through in this life is silence. That silence when you pray and it feels like your words don't get past the ceiling. That silence when you're crying out, when you've poured everything you have into people, into your dreams, into your family, and you're met with nothing. It's in those moments when the quiet can feel so loud, when the absence of an answer can feel like the answer itself. And if you've ever been there, you know it makes you want to question everything, your worth, your purpose, even your faith. But let me tell you something, silence is not the same thing as abandonment. Silence does not mean God has left you. Silence often means he's closer than he's ever been. Because it's in that stillness, in that emptiness, in that dark and lonely place that God's voice becomes the clearest. See, we expect God to speak through burning bushes, through thunder, through something big and dramatic. But most of the time, he doesn't. He whispers. He speaks through the little nudges, the small signs, the moments you almost overlook. That's why silence is so important. It forces you to lean in, to pay attention, to hear what you couldn't hear when everything else was so loud. If life was always noisy, if every prayer got an instant answer, if every door opened the moment you knocked, you wouldn't learn how to recognize the difference between your voice, other people's voices, and God's voice. The quiet seasons train you to hear him. I remember being in a place where I felt like I had lost everything. Dreams shattered, people gone, doors slammed in my face. I prayed, and all I got was silence. And at first I thought maybe God was punishing me. Maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe he had moved on to someone more deserving. But the longer I sat in that silence, the more I realized it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. It was as if God was saying, I need you to stop talking, stop running, stop trying to fix it yourself, and just sit still long enough for me to work. That's the hardest thing to do, isn't it? To just be still, to not force it, not beg people to stay, not try to break down a locked door. Just sit in the silence and trust that God is still moving even when you can't hear him. The truth is, God does some of his best work in the dark. Think about a seed. You bury it in the ground, it disappears, it's covered in dirt. And for a while it looks like nothing is happening. But in that hidden, silent place, the seed is breaking, roots are stretching, life is forming. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but it's happening. That's what silence feels like. That's what your struggle feels like. You think nothing's growing, but underground, God is doing something so powerful that by the time it breaks the surface, you'll be amazed it came out of you. And here's the thing, you may think God is far away when you're hurting, but he's actually the closest in those moments. When you're too weak to stand, he's carrying you. When your heart is breaking and you don't have words, the Bible says he understands the groans, the cries that can't be spoken. That's his way of saying, even when you can't talk to me, I can still hear you. Don't mistake his quiet for his absence. Silence is often God's way of saying, trust me. I'm working on something you can't see yet. Some of you are in a place right now where you're asking, God, where are you? Why aren't you saying anything? Why does it feel like I'm praying to an empty sky? And what you don't realize that he's already spoken. He's already given you the word in your spirit. He's already written the answer in your heart. You're just in the classroom of silence where he's teaching you how to listen, how to recognize his hand when the answer finally comes. Because when you've been trained in the silence, you won't fall apart in the noise. I know the silence feels heavy. I know the struggle makes you want to give up. But let me tell you, when you come out of this season, you're going to see that God wasn't quiet. He was rearranging things, removing the wrong people, preparing the right opportunities, strengthening the very parts of you that you thought were broken. He was protecting you from things you couldn't see. That's why he had to keep you hidden. That's why he had to let you sit in the dark for a while. Because if you had moved too soon, if you had gotten what you wanted too quickly, it would have destroyed you. But in the silence, he's making sure you're ready for what's coming. So don't run from the quiet. Don't resent the struggle. Don't curse the unanswered prayers. Learn to lean into the silence. Learn to hear God in the stillness. Because one day you'll look back and realize that it was in the nights you cried alone, in the moments you felt forgotten, in the seasons of struggle when nothing seemed to move. That's when God spoke the loudest. That's when he shaped you. That's when he built the faith in you that no one can take away. And when the blessing finally arrives, you'll understand it wasn't the noise that made you. It was the silence. Pain is a way of making you believe that your life is over. It makes you think that somehow you've been left behind, forgotten, or marked for failure. But let me tell you something straight from my heart. Pain is not the end of you. Pain is the beginning of something greater. It's not just random suffering. It's not just cruelty. It's the soil where your purpose is planted. The tears you cry are not wasted. They are watering the very ground that will one day produce your destiny. Every hurt, every betrayal, every disappointment, God is using all of it to prepare you for what he's called you to be. Think about it. Some of the most powerful people, the ones you look up to, the ones who inspire you, they didn't get that way because everything was easy for them. No, they got that strength from surviving something. They got that wisdom because they walked through storms. They found their voice because they had to cry through the nights when no one else could hear them. And you may not see it right now, but that's what's happening in you. That pain you're carrying, it's shaping you, chiseling you, building muscles in your soul you never even knew you had. See, purpose doesn't grow on the mountaintop. Purpose doesn't grow when everybody's cheering for you and life feels good. Purpose grows in the valley. Purpose grows in the shadows. Purpose grows when you're down on your knees, asking God why. That's the soil where he plants your destiny. Because it's in that broken ground that the deepest roots take hold. If the soil of your life was always soft, always easy, you wouldn't be able to hold the weight of the blessings he has planned for you. But because the ground is tough, because it's been watered with your tears, when you rise, you'll rise unshakable. I know you don't like the pain. I know you want it to end. I know you'd rather not carry the scars. But let me tell you this, scars are proof that you survived. Scars are proof that even though the wound was deep, it didn't destroy you. And sometimes, your scars are the very thing God will use to heal someone else. There are people who will look at what you've been through and say, if they made it, I can make it too. That's purpose. That's why the pain was necessary. Because it's not just about you. It's about who you're going to touch, who you're going to lift, who you're going to remind that God still works in broken people. And let's be honest, pain teaches us things that comfort never could. When everything is easy, you don't pray as hard. You don't dig as deep. You don't lean on God the same way. But when you're hurting, when you have nowhere else to turn, that's when you learn how to depend on him. That's when your faith becomes real, not just words, not just a nice thought, but something you live by. Pain refines you. It strips away the unnecessary. It shows you what really matters. And it makes you ready for a kind of purpose you couldn't carry if you'd never been broken. I remember a season in my life where I thought the pain was going to kill me. Everything I had worked for fell apart. People I trusted turned their backs. Doors I thought would stay open slammed shut. I felt buried. But here's the thing. I wasn't buried, I was planted. And there's a difference. Buried means it's over. Planted means something is about to grow. And maybe that's what's happening to you right now. Maybe you feel covered in dirt, suffocated by the weight of what you're going through. But I need you to hear me. You are not buried, you are planted. And if you stay patient, if you stay faithful, you will rise again. God doesn't waste pain. Every ounce of it is accounted for. Every sleepless night, every broken dream, every unanswered prayer, he collects it all. And when the time is right, he redeems it. What looked like it was sent to break you will be the very thing that builds you. What looked like the end will turn out to be beginning. Pain is the raw material God uses to craft your destiny. Without it, your purpose would lack depth, lack empathy, lack the weight to really change lives. And I need you to think about this. The very thing you're asking God to take away might be the very thing he's using to get you where you need to go. The very storm you want him to calm might be the storm that's steering you to your purpose. I know that's not easy to hear. I know it hurts. But if you could see your life the way he sees it, you'd understand that none of it is wasted. Not one tear, not one betrayal, not one heartbreak. All of it has a place in the story. So don't run from the pain. Don't numb it. Don't bury it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Face it, because on the other side of it is purpose. On the other side of it is strength. On the other side of it is the version of you that God has been shaping all along. One day, you're going to look back and thank God for the nights you thought you wouldn't survive because they made you who you are. You're going to see that the pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. It was the soil where he planted your destiny. And when that day comes, when you finally step into the fullness of your purpose, you'll understand that it wasn't the good times that made you strong. It was the struggle. It wasn't the applause that gave you wisdom. It was the tears. It wasn't the ease of life that brought you close to God. It was the pain. And you'll stand as living proof that pain doesn't destroy purpose. It delivers it. There are times in your life when you look around and wonder, where did everybody go? The phone doesn't ring like it used to. The people you thought would always be there slowly fade away. The ones you counted on don't show up when you need them the most. And you start to think maybe something's wrong with you. Maybe you've done something to push them away. Maybe God is punishing you by leaving you alone. But let me tell you the truth. Your isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. God pulls you away because he's getting you ready for something too big to be handled in the crowd. See, when you're always surrounded by people, by noise, by opinions, it's hard to hear God clearly. It's hard to separate his voice from all the other voices around you. And sometimes, God loves you too much to let the wrong voices influence what he's building in you. That's why he allows isolation. Not because he wants you to suffer, but because he wants you to develop in a place where no one else can contaminate what he's doing. Think about it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen in hidden places. Before a diamond ever shines, it spends years buried deep underground, hidden in darkness, under pressure, away from the world. Before a baby is born, it grows in the womb, hidden, unseen, but being formed in perfect detail. Before a tree ever reaches the sky, its roots dig deep into the ground where no one can see. That's what God is doing with you in your isolation. He's forming you, shaping you, strengthening your roots in a place where nobody is watching. And it doesn't feel good, does it? It feels lonely. It feels like rejection. It feels like everybody else is moving on with their lives while you're stuck in the shadows. But you've got to change how you see it. That isolation is not rejection, it's protection. God is protecting you from the people who don't belong in your next season. He's protecting you from distractions that would derail your destiny. He's protecting the dream inside you so it has time to mature before it's exposed. If you stepped out too early, the weight of your purpose would crush you. So he hides you until you're ready. And maybe right now you're asking, why did they leave me? Why didn't they stay? Why am I the one always standing alone? But the truth is, they had to leave. Not everyone can go where you're going. Not everyone can handle the weight of what God is putting in you. Some people are only meant for a season, not a lifetime. And if they had stayed, they might have poisoned the very thing God is trying to birth in you. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not who comes into your life, but who God removes. I've lived through seasons of isolation, and at first I hated it. I thought I had been forgotten. I thought God had left me behind. But looking back, I see now it was in those quiet, lonely places where I learned who I was. It was in those moments that I found my true strength, that I discovered my own voice, that I learned to stand on faith without leaning on other people. Isolation forced me to depend on God in ways I never had before. And it taught me something powerful. When you have God, you're never really alone. See, isolation is like a cocoon. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening. You look hidden, stuck, cut off. But inside that cocoon, transformation is taking place. What went in as a crawling caterpillar comes out as a soaring butterfly. And that's exactly what God is doing in your life. The cocoon may feel tight, uncomfortable, even suffocating at times, but it's necessary for your wings to develop. Without the cocoon, the butterfly could never fly. Without your season of isolation, you could never rise into the fullness of your calling. I want you to shift your perspective. Stop looking at isolation as abandonment and start seeing it as alignment. Stop asking, why am I alone? And start asking, what is God building in me during this time? Because I promise you, if you let him, he will use this season to strengthen you, to prepare you, to shape you into someone who is ready for the blessings he's about to release. One day, you're going to step out of this season, and people are going to wonder where you came from. They'll say, I didn't see you coming. How did you get so strong? How did you get so wise? How did you rise so fast? And you'll know the answer. It was in the hidden place. It was in the nights when you cried alone. It was in the mornings when you prayed and no one else heard you. It was in the silence where God was molding you. The isolation was never about breaking you down. It was always about building you up for what's ahead. So don't despise your lonely seasons. Don't curse the times when the phone doesn't ring, when the invitations don't come, when the people you thought were your friends disappear. Embrace it. Because those are the seasons where God whispers secrets to you that can't be heard in the crowd. Those are the seasons where your roots grow so deep that when the storm comes, you won't be moved. Those are the seasons where he prepares you privately so he can use you publicly. And when you finally step into the purpose he's been preparing you for, you'll realize the isolation was never punishment. It was a gift. It was the womb where your destiny was formed. It was the soil where your character took root. It was the classroom where you learned to lean on God alone. And you'll look back and thank him for every lonely night, every empty room, every quiet season. Because you'll understand now that you weren't abandoned, you were being prepared for the life you were born to live. One of the hardest things for us to accept in life is timing. We live in a world where everything moves fast, where we want instant answers, instant results, instant relief. And when God doesn't show up when we think he should, it feels like he's forgotten us. It feels like maybe our prayers didn't matter, maybe our faith wasn't enough, maybe our lives just don't count the same as everyone else's. But let me remind you, God has never been late, not once. His timing may not look like yours, but when he shows up right on time, and when his hand moves, everything changes. You see, darkness has a way of convincing you that the night will never end. When you've cried yourself to sleep enough nights, when the bills stack higher than the money, when the doctor's report feels heavier than your hope, you start to believe the sun isn't coming. You start to think maybe this is your forever. But just like the sun rises every single morning without fail, God's timing always breaks through the night. No matter how deep the darkness, morning still comes. That's how faithful he is. That's how sure his promises are. I can remember times in my own life when I begged God to move. I said, Lord, if you don't do it right now, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I pleaded, I fasted, I prayed. And you know what? He didn't come when I wanted him to. He didn't answer when I thought I couldn't take one more second. But when he did answer, when he did move, it was so perfect, so complete, so undeniable, that I couldn't help but realize if he had given me what I asked for earlier, I wouldn't have been ready to receive it. I wouldn't have been mature enough. I wouldn't have had the wisdom. I wouldn't have had the strength to hold it. His delay wasn't denial, it was preparation. Some of you are in that waiting place right now. You're praying, you're asking, you're doing everything you know how to do, and still nothing has changed. And it feels like God is silent. It feels like he's distant. But what if I told you that in this very moment, he's setting the stage? What if I told you that while you're waiting, he's aligning people, shifting circumstances, moving mountains you can't even see? What if the reason he hasn't opened the door yet is because he's building a foundation that will hold you when the door finally swings wide? That's how he works. His timing is not about convenience. It's about destiny. Think about it. If a baby is born too early, it struggles to survive. If fruit is picked before it's ripe, it can't nourish the body. If metal is pulled from the fire too soon, it won't be strong enough to withstand pressure. Timing matters. And God knows the exact moment you're ready. The exact season your breakthrough will bless you instead of break you. That's why you can't rush him. That's why you can't measure your life against anyone else's. Because their timing is not your timing. Their season is not your season. What God has for you is tailor-made, and it will not come 1 second too early or 1 second too late. And I know the waiting is painful. I know the darkness feels suffocating. I know you're tired of holding on to hope when everything around you screams that it's over. But I promise you, when God's timing breaks through, the very thing you thought would never change will shift in an instant. The storm will end. The door will open. The healing will come. The relationship will restore. The opportunity will show up out of nowhere. And you'll know it wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It wasn't people. It was God. But here's what makes his timing so powerful. When he moves, he doesn't just answer your prayer, he exceeds it. He doesn't just bring you through. He lifts you higher than you imagine. He doesn't just fix what was broken. He makes it better than it ever was. That's why you can't afford to quit in the darkness. Because just when you're about to give up, just when the night feels the longest, that's often the moment before dawn breaks. And let me tell you something. You don't need everyone to believe in you for God's timing to work. You don't need everyone to understand what he's doing. You just need to hold on. You just need to stay faithful in the waiting. Because his clock is not broken. He's not late. He's not ignoring you. He's working on a level you can't see yet. One day, you'll look back on this season and realize that the delay was mercy, that the wait was protection, that the darkness was actually the soil where your roots went deeper. And you'll thank him not just for the blessing, but for the timing. Because you'll see that if he had given it to you sooner, it would have slipped through your hands. But because he made you wait, because he developed you in the darkness, you were ready when it finally came. So tonight, if you feel stuck in the waiting, if the silence feels heavy, if the darkness feels endless, hold on. Trust that God's timing is still perfect. The same God who spoke light into existence, who commands the sun to rise every morning, is the same God who has your life in his hands. And just as surely as the dawn follows the night, His light will break through your darkness. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when it comes, it will be so undeniable that you'll know it could have only been him. Let me leave you with this. Whatever you're going through right now, however heavy it feels, however long it's been, however silent it seems, don't you dare think for 1 second that God has forgotten you. Don't you let the darkness convince you that it's the end. Don't you let the pain make you believe that it's all for nothing. He is right there with you, even if you can't feel him, even if you can't hear him. The silence, that's him teaching you how to listen. The pain, that's him planting the seed of your purpose. The isolation, that's him protecting you while he prepares you. The waiting, that's him arranging everything for the right time. None of it is wasted. Not one moment, not one tear, not one struggle. All of it is working together for something greater than you can see right now. So hold on. Don't give up before the breakthrough. Don't walk away before the blessing. Don't quit in the middle of the night, because morning is coming. And when it comes, you'll see that everything you went through, every tear you cried, every lonely night, it was all leading you here, to the place where you not only hear God's voice, but you recognize that he's been carrying you all along. And when you step into that place, when the light finally breaks through your darkness, you'll realize that the difficult times weren't meant to destroy you. They were meant to define you. They were meant to reveal the strength, the faith, and the calling that's been in you all along. You'll rise stronger, wiser, more faithful, and with a testimony that will give hope to everyone who hears it. So keep walking, keep believing, keep trusting. Because even in your most difficult times, God will speak. And when he does, his word will be more powerful than the pain, more certain than the silence, and more faithful than the fear.